The calendar, each day of the month of May, from the Book of Heaven, by the servant of God, Luisa Picaretta, for private use. May 1st, 1900, Volume 3, The Eucharist and the Cross. Suffering is not to be feared. After I received communion, my sweet Jesus made himself seen all affability, and as it seemed that the confessor was placing the intention of the crucifixion, my nature felt almost a repugnance to submit itself. My sweet Jesus, to cheer me, told me, "My daughter, if the Eucharist is the deposit of the future glory, the cross is the disbursement with which to purchase it. If the Eucharist is the seed which prevents corruption, like those aromatic herbs that prevent decomposition when applied to cadavers, and gives immortality to soul and body, the cross embellishes and is so powerful that if debts have been contracted, it becomes their guarantor, and it more surely obtains the restitution of the debt's deed. And after it has satisfied every debt, it forms for the soul the most refulgent throne in the future glory. Ah, yes, the cross and the Eucharist alternate, and one operates more powerfully than the other." Then he added, "The cross is my flowery bed, not because I did not suffer harrowing spasms, but because, by means of the cross, I delivered many souls to grace, and I could see many beautiful flowers bloom, which would produce many celestial fruits. So in seeing so much good, I held that bed of suffering as my delight, and I delighted in the cross and in suffering. You too, my daughter, take pains as delights, and delight in being crucified on my cross. No, no, I do not want you to fear suffering, almost wanting to act as a sluggard. Up! Courage! Be brave, and on your own expose yourself to suffering." As he was saying this, I saw my good guardian angel ready to crucify me. I stretched out my arms on my own, and the angel crucified me. Oh, how good Jesus delighted in my suffering, and how content I was that such a miserable soul could give pleasure to Jesus. It seemed a great honor for me to suffer for love of him. May 1st, 1904, Volume 6. The eye that delights only in the things of heaven has the virtue of seeing Jesus, while one who delights in the things of the earth has the virtue of seeing the things of the earth. As I was in my usual state, I was thinking about our Lord at the moment when, as he reached the top of Mount Calvary, he was completely stripped and was embittered with gall. And I was praying to him, saying, "My adorable Lord, I see in you but a garment of blood adorned with wounds. For taste and pleasure I see bitternesses of gall, and for honor and glory I see confusion, opprobriums, and crosses. Oh, please do not permit, after you have suffered so much, that I look at the things of this earth as anything other than dung and mud, that I take any other pleasure but in you alone, and that all my honor be anything else but the cross." And he, making himself seen, told me, "My daughter, if you did otherwise, you would lose the purity of eye, and as a veil would form before your sight, you would lose the good of seeing me. In fact, the eye that delights only in the things of heaven has the virtue of seeing me, while one who delights in the things of the earth has the virtue of seeing the things of the earth, because his eye, in seeing them as different from what they are, sees them and loves them. May 5th, 1920, Volume 12. The sanctity of one who lives in the divine will is a continuous glory be. One who lives in the divine will, living on a high place, must bear the pains of those who live down below. My misery makes itself felt more and more. I was saying in my interior, "My Jesus, what a life mine is!" And he, without giving me time to say anything else, quickly answered, "My daughter, for one who lives in my will, sanctity has only one point, a continuous glory be, followed by, as it was in the beginning, it is now, and ever shall be, world without end." There is nothing in which she does not give glory to God, complete in everything, always stable, always equal, always queen, without ever changing. This sanctity is not subject to setbacks or losses, but to always reigning. Therefore its foundation is the glory be, and its prerogative is the as it was in the beginning, and so forth. As I continued to lament about his privations and the subtractions of suffering, while he gives it out abundantly to others, my always lovable Jesus came out from within my interior, and placing his head on my shoulder, all afflicted, told me, "My daughter, one who lives in my will lives on a high place, and one who lives on a high place can look down below with more clarity. She has to take part in the decisions, in the afflictions, and in everything which befits persons who live on a high place. Don't you see this in the world? Sometimes only father and mother do, and sometimes also the eldest child is able to take part in the decisions and in the sufferings of the parents. While they are under the nightmare of painful sufferings, uncertainties, intrigues, losses, the other little children don't know anything about it. Rather, they let them play and continue the course of ordinary family life, not wanting to embitter those tender lives without a useful purpose for them and for the parents. The same happens in the order of grace. One who is little and still growing lives down below. Therefore, purges are necessary in order to make her grow in sanctity. It would be as if one wanted to talk about business, intrigues, pains to the little ones of the family. They would be stunned and would not understand a thing. But one who lives in my will, living on a high place, must bear the pains of those who live down below, see their dangers, help them, take such serious decisions as to make one tremble, while they remain tranquil. Therefore calm yourself. We will have a communal life in my will, and together with me, you will take part in the sufferings of the human family. You will watch over the great storms which will arise again, and while they play in the midst of danger, you will cry with me over their misfortune. May 1st, 1921, Volume 13. The human will casts dissimilarity between creator and creature. All is harmony for one who lives in the divine will. Continuing in my usual state, I found myself outside of myself in the midst of a multitude of people. Up high there was the Queen Mamma, speaking to that people and crying, so much so that, holding a tuft of roses on her lap, she bathed them with her tears. I could not understand anything of what she was saying. I could only see that the celestial Mamma was begging them, crying, to calm down. Then she detached one rose, and pointing to me in the midst of so many people, she threw it to me. I looked at it, and the rose was beaded with the tears of my dear Mamma, and those tears were inviting me to pray for peace among the peoples. Afterwards I found myself together with my sweet Jesus, and I prayed to him for peace among the peoples. And he, drawing me to himself, spoke to me about his most holy will, telling me, "My daughter, my will contains the creative power, and just as my will gave life to all things, so it has the power to destroy them. Now the soul who lives in my volition also has the power to give life to good and to give death to evil. Within its immensity she finds herself in the past, and wherever there are gaps of my glory, offenses not repaired, love not given to me, she fills the gaps of my glory. She makes for me the most beautiful reparations, and she gives me love for all. In my will she spreads herself in the present. She extends to future centuries, and everywhere and for every one she gives me that which creation owes me. In the soul who lives in my will I feel the echo of my power, of my love, of my sanctity. I feel the echo of her acts in each one of my acts. She runs everywhere, before me, behind me, and even inside of me. Wherever my will is, hers is there too. As my acts multiply themselves, hers too multiply. Only the human will puts disharmony between creature and creator. One single act of human will causes confusion between heaven and earth, and casts dissimilarity between creator and creature. On the other hand, all is harmony for one who lives in my will. Her things and mine harmonize together. I am with her on earth, and she is with me in heaven. One is the interest, one the life, one the will. See, creation did not move from my will in anything. The sky is always azure and starry. The sun is full of light and heat. The whole of creation is in perfect harmony. Each thing is the support of the other. It is always beautiful, fresh, young. It never grows old, nor does it lose one shadow of its beauty. On the contrary, it seems to rise every day more majestically, giving a sweet enchantment to all creatures. So would man have been had he not withdrawn from my will, and so are the souls who live in my will. They are the new heavens, the new suns, the new earth, all flowery, even more varied with beauty and enchantment. May 5th, 1925, Volume 17, The Mission of Living in the Divine Will, the Mission of our Lord Jesus Christ, the Mission of Mary Most Holy, and the Mission of Luisa. I was thinking about the many things that my beloved Jesus told me on his most holy will, and some doubts came back to me that who knows, it might not really be necessary to say everything, or that some things were not necessary. But Jesus, wanting to lovingly resolve my doubts and make me know the mission he entrusts to the one who is to make his divine will known, having chosen for this the misery that I am, to my great stupefaction and confusion, continuing his holy instructions on this matter, told me, "My daughter, every mission is to be connected to the office of executing it, and therefore it must be carried out, omitting nothing of that which belongs to it. In fact, every mission which is destined for the good of others has its own particular gifts, graces, riches, and qualities, which are useful for its execution. My humanity received from my divinity the mission of the salvation of souls and the office of Redeemer, that is, to redeem them from the slavery of sin and from eternal death. In order to carry out this office, I was given their souls, their pains, their satisfactions. Therefore I enclosed within myself everything from every one, and if my humanity had neglected to enclose in itself just one soul, one satisfaction, the office of Redeemer would not have been complete. I would not have enclosed in myself all the graces, the goods, and the light which it was necessary to give to each soul. And even though not all of the souls are saved, this says nothing. On my part, I had to enclose the goods of all, so that I might have necessary and superabundant graces for all, in order to be able to save all. This was convenient to me for the decorum and the just honor of my office as Redeemer. Look at the sun above your horizon. It contains so much light as to be able to give light to all. And even though not all might want to enjoy its light, by its unique office as sun, it possesses even the light that creatures might refuse. This was convenient to the sun because it was created by God as the unique sphere which was to warm and embrace the earth with its light. Each created being has its own office to carry out, and that office is unique, linked to that being, to that creature. In order to execute it well, it is necessary that the one who is to carry out the office entrusted to her contains so much of that good which she must give to others according to the mission for which she was created, that as much of it as she gives, it is never exhausted, not even by one atom. This was even more convenient to me, who was to be the new sun of the souls, and who was to give light to all, and embrace all with my light, to bring them all to the supreme majesty, offering to this divine majesty an act from myself which would contain all acts, and to make the superabundant light of my divinity descend upon all in order to rescue them. In addition to me, there is my celestial mamma, who received the unique mission as the mother of a God's son and the office of co-redemptrix of mankind. For her mission of divine maternity, she was enriched with so much grace that all other creatures combined, both celestial and terrestrial, would never be able to equal her. But this was not enough to draw the Word into her maternal womb. It was necessary that the mother put in action all this abyss of graces and gifts by embracing all creatures, loving them, repairing and adoring the supreme majesty for all, in such a way as to accomplish herself all that the human generations owed to God. Therefore, in her virginal heart, she had an inexhaustible vein for God and for all creatures. When the divinity found in this virgin compensation for the love of all, it felt enraptured, and formed in her its conception, that is, the incarnation of the Word. And as she conceived me, she took on the office of co-redemptrix, and shared and embraced together with me all the pains, the substitutions, the reparations, the maternal love for all. In the heart of my mother, there was a fiber of maternal love for each creature. This is why, in truth and with justice, when I was on the cross, I declared her mother of all. She ran together with me in the love, in the sufferings, in everything. She never left me alone. If the Eternal One had not placed so much grace in her as to be able to receive alone the love of all, he would never have moved from heaven to come down upon earth and redeem mankind. Here is the necessity, the convenience, that she had to embrace and surpass everything, as befitting the mission of the Mother of the Word. When an office is unique, as a consequence, nothing must escape the one who has it as mission. He must have everything under his eyes, so as to be able to offer the good he possesses. He must be like a true sun that can give light to all. So were I, and my celestial mamma. Now, your mission of making known the eternal will is braided with mine, and with that of my dear mother. And since it has to serve for the good of all, it was necessary to centralize the eternal Son of my will into one creature, so that, as a unique mission, this sun might let its rays blaze from her, and all might take the good of its light. This implies that, for the decorum and honor of my will, I had to pour into you, as bearers and preparations, such graces, light, love, and knowledge of it, as to befit the residence of the Son of my will. Even more, you must know that, just as my humanity, in its office of Redeemer, conceived all souls, the same was to happen in you, in your mission and office, to make my will known and reign. As you continue to do your acts in my will for all creatures remain conceived in your will. And as you keep repeating your acts in mine, you form many sips of life of divine will, in order to be able to nourish all the creatures which are as though conceived in yours by virtue of my will. Do you not feel how, in my will, you embrace all, from the first to the last creature which is to exist upon earth? And for all, you would want to satisfy, love, please this supreme will, binding it to all, removing all obstacles that prevent its dominion in the creatures, making it known to all, and even with sufferings you expose yourself to satisfy for all this supreme will, which so much loves to be known and to reign in the midst of creatures? To you, firstborn daughter of my divine will, it is given to make known the qualities, the value, the good it contains, and its eternal sorrow of living unknown, hidden in the midst of the human generations. Even more, despised and offended by the evil ones, and placed by the good ones at the level of the other virtues, as if it were a little light which is lit by men, as virtues are in comparison with my will, and not the eternal sun that my will is. The mission of my will is the greatest that can exist. There is no good which does not descend from it. There is no glory which does not come from it. Everything is centered in it. Our interior works and those which we have delivered, the creation of the angels, of the world, of men, all virtues, all merits, all predestinations, all goods, all the glory of the chosen ones, all the mysteries of the infinite love, which are still unknown to man, and the past, the present, the future, all in one act, and in act, and in one single point. Therefore be attentive, and do not want to waste time with doubts or uncertainties. Everything I told you for this mission was necessary, not for you, but for the honor, the glory, the knowledge, and the sanctity of my will, and of its dominion in the creatures. And since my will is one, One was to be the creature to whom I had to entrust it, and through whom it would make its rays blaze, to do good to all. May 1st, 1926, Volume 19. How one who lives in the divine will is nourished by the divine breath, while one who does not live in it is an intruder and an usurper of the goods of God, and receives them as alms. The divine will has a continuous motion that never stops. I felt all immersed in the supreme volition, and my sweet Jesus came out from within my interior, and squeezing me tightly to himself, he placed his mouth close to my lips, and sent me his omnipotent breath. But who can say what I felt within me? That breath penetrated deep into my most intimate fibers. It filled me completely, to the point that I no longer felt my littleness, my existence, but only Jesus within all of me. Then, after repeating several times this act of sending me his breath, as it seemed he was not content if he did not see me completely filled with that divine breath, he told me, "My daughter, since you are born in my will, it is necessary, it is right and decorous that you live, grow, and be nourished in it, and that you acquire the prerogatives of a true daughter of my volition. No extraneous feature, nor anything which does not belong to my will, must appear in you. Therefore, from your physiognomy, from your manners, from your speaking, and even from the way you love and pray, it must be recognized that you are the daughter of my will. Do you see then how I love you, and with what jealousy I keep you and nourish you? With my very breath, because only my breath can preserve, whole and permanent, the life of my will in one who must live in my volition. And so that breath which, with so much love, I released from my bosom in the creation of man, to infuse in him my likeness, I continue to infuse in the soul who lives in my will, in order to form my true images, and the great portents which I had established to form in creation, and for which all things were made. This is why I long so much for one who lives in my will, because she alone will not leave me disappointed in the purpose of creation. She alone will enjoy by right the things created by me, because since my will is one with hers, what is mine is hers, and by right she can say, "The heavens, the sun, the earth, and all the other things are mine. Therefore I want to enjoy them, also to give honor to that supreme will which created them and which reigns in me." On the other hand, the soul in whom my will does not reign has no right, and if she enjoys them, she is a usurper, because they do not belong to her. She is an intruder in my goods, and because my goodness is great, I let her enjoy them as alms, but not by right. This is why many times the elements unload themselves over man to his harm, because he has no right, and what is left for him of the things of the earth is the alms that the Creator sends to him. But one who lives in my will is like a queen in the midst of creation, and I greatly delight in seeing her reign in the midst of my goods. After this I continued to pray, and my sweet Jesus came back, making himself seen with two fountains of light coming out of his most holy hands. One of them descended over my poor soul, and through a device which was formed in the hands of Jesus, while descending, it went up again. It seemed to be a continuous current which, while descending, ascended. Jesus was all delighted in the midst of these fountains of light, and was all attentive, so that one of them would remain all centralized in me. Then he said to me, "My daughter, this fountain of light which descends from my hands is my will, which descends from heaven and makes its way into the soul in order to accomplish what it wants to do within her. This action of my will forms the other fountain of light, which through my hands ascends again toward heaven to bring the fulfillment of my will from the creature to the eternal Creator. But while ascending, at the same time it descends again, doubled, to continue its divine action in the creature. My will has a continuous motion. It never stops. If its motion could be stopped, which cannot be, life would cease for the whole creation, for the sun, for the starry heavens, for the plants, for the water, for the fire, for creatures. All of them would be reduced to nothing. Therefore, with its continuous motion, my will is life of each created thing. It binds everything. It is more than air, which with its breath makes all the things which came out of our hands breathe, develop, and vegetate. See then what an affront is given by creatures, because while my will is life of everything and center of all things, and without it nothing and no good would exist, they do not want to recognize its dominion, nor its life which flows within them. This is why one who recognizes the life of my will within herself and in all things is the triumph of our will and the conquest of our victories. She is the recompense of our love to our continuous motion. Our will binds this creature to the whole creation, making her do all the good that my will itself does. So everything is hers, and I love her so much that I am unable to do anything without her, because by virtue of my will, we have the same life, the same love, one single heartbeat, and one single breath." And while saying this, he threw himself into my arms, as though faint with love, and he disappeared. End of May 1st. Fiat.